All right, we're live. I am Andy Kennedy of Inner Self Lightworks, here today with my friend Edee, coming to us from Maine. And this is the seventh of 8 interviews that we're doing for Manifesting with Synchronicity. And so if you haven't heard of this course that I teach, I'll just preface this video with a little bit of info on that to be quick, but it's a 6 units, but we cram 9 insights into 6 units now. Used to be 9 weeks, and before that I taught it in person. I've been teaching it in person since 2013, and it's based on the Celestine prophecy. And so now that it's online, you can journey through it at your own pace, but we do have a community of awesome people who have either gone through it or are going through this course with you. And it's a course in up-leveling your connection to spirit. It's a course with a lot of tools for connecting to source energy, and meditation, tools, affirmations. I provide a lot of tools in this because I went through this journey myself and really picked up all the things that I think are helpful in manifesting with synchronicity. So that's the course's title. And I will put the link to my free webinar on manifesting. That's sort of the kickstart into information about that course in the details on this after we're done. But I'm going to turn it over to Edee and ask some questions of her. She did take this course last year and cycled through it, and along with the other folks, the other gals that I've interviewed so far. And I love every one of these interviews is a little bit different. I love that everybody's takeaways are a little bit different. And so that's what we'll be talking about today. So welcome, Edee. Thank you for joining me from all the way from Maine. And yeah, I'm just excited to hear some of your thoughts on this course. So, my first question is, when did you take it? So where were you kind of at when you decided to say yes to this? Because you said yes to it during the pandemic, and that's synchronous in itself. And then when you signed up, what were you hoping to achieve?
Well, I loved the way I even learned about this course because you and I, Andy, were attending a Zoom, and I was about to ask a question, and you asked the very question, and I wrote in my notes, synchronicity, underlined it. And then I got in touch with you and I said, this was cool because, you've always been a person I've really admired and loved and enjoyed communicating with. So, and you responded and said, well, I teach this class, and it seems like that's kind of like a little sort of invitation from the divine. And so I was intrigued. And one of the main reasons I wanted to take it, I was a fairly recent widow, and going through that whole experience, which I wanted to see as a kind of a vision quest, and explore that. And so it was wonderful how I learned about the course. And I remember discussing with Andy, would this be of value for me? And as we were talking, I was driving down the driveway to this beautiful piece of property that I have here in Maine, right on the water. I love it so dearly, but it's a little bit of a dilemma what to do with that. So I thought this will be a good way to explore that. And I wanted a larger scope of view in my whole perspective in life. I wanted more fun right at that stage in my life. Was sequestered at home because of the pandemic. And I wanted to be with like-minded people. And I just love miracle energy, and I love whatever I can do to be in that state of consciousness. So that was how I got interested in the class. And what's the next question?
Yeah, just what you were hoping to achieve, which I think you.
Right. Yes,
yeah,
I've kind of said that.
Yeah, you definitely did. And I love the vision quest. I absolutely love that. We look at the Western world, we look at death so differently, and so disconnectedly. I feel like in not everybody, but in some realities, and it's such a Native American outlook to, to really take death as a vision quest, a journey into the new version of yourself. Um, and to go through the process of grieving and everything, but still come out the other end, with that knowledge of I'm going to be a new version of myself. And what a beautiful, um yeah, what a beautiful outlook. So thank you for that. And um the other piece too that I really resonate, of course, well, in the beginning when you said the synchronicity of it all, and I do remember that, Edie and I are part of an organization, a company that's a global mission of inspiring healthy living, and that Zoom or conference call that we were on, we were talking to our global CEO at the time and I asked him a question, which was nerve wracking for me to like reach out and talk to this man I've never talked to before, and who's such a high up, representative for us in our company, and I loved that you reached out to me and said, that is like the exact question I would have asked. And so what your words were was that was an invitation from the universe. And I really do see synchronicity as a reach out, a hand out to say, here's the path. I have a fairy deck of cards, and the top card is a fairy who's like reaching her hand out like that, as come into this realm and say yes to what you don't know, right? And that's what evolution is, and that's what this course is all about, is evolving yourself. And so wow, that really, I mean, when you said that, I was, oh right, that totally gave me chills. So so thanks for that reminder. So let's move on to takeaways, and tell me, throughout this course, there are a lot of tools that we provide. There are, like I said, 9 insights that we go through, which are the 9 insights of the Celestine prophecy. Tell me of those, what are your biggest takeaways? You know, I think the title that I just threw in as a temp while we are live here, I tend to throw something in, and then when we are done talking, I take the talking points that we've covered and fill them in into the title. But it was, the 2 takeaways that really, if you were only to take 2 things to help you manifest, right? To really think, hey, these are the things that I really find are part of my daily practice of manifestation. What would those 2, 1 or 2 or 3 things be? And things that you're incorporating still today.
Very much so. I think this class will have lifelong benefit for me. And one is replenishing from source. I feel like I'm a person who can somewhat easily feel cowed or intimidated, and learning to replenish from source right at the moment when I'm talking with someone who I might find domineering. I love that, and it's really been helpful. And the other thing I've really enjoyed is the concept of flipping a negative experience into a positive one. It's very effective, and I think the more you do these things, the more you gain a sense of your own inner strength and power, and that's serves you well throughout your life.
It sure does. Yeah, that's
And
beautiful.
there are many things I learned, but one I've enjoyed so much is the mirror words.
Nice.
I sometimes when I read them, they have a particular resonance. And here's a wonderful thing. I was on a walk with my neighbor. She's just lived here a little over a year. Meeting her was a wonderful synchronicity. She's an architect. And we were on a walk just after New Year's. And she said, well, one of my New Year's resolutions is to see beauty in everything. And I said, oh, I have that posted on my bathroom mirror.
Wow.
and and so I took a photo of it and sent it to her, and so that was fun.
Oh, wow. And
Um,
yeah, there's a little synchronicity there as well, right?
absolutely, absolutely. And another of the tools you taught was just having that sanctuary space within our heart to renew ourselves and replenish ourselves. And I really, in today's world, I think that's so valuable. And so much of what you taught is really easy to do. It might be quite deep, you know, but it's not something you have to spend 20 years sweeping up around the ashram, as one of my teachers put one time. You know, it's accessible right now, and for the normal person, and I love that.
Thank you, Edie. Yeah, I
And you know,
appreciate
with a
that.
sense of mystery too, though, you know, a sense
Right,
of sanctity
right.
and awe, but also doable in everyday life. And I love merging those two realms, you know, so that
Mm,
everyday life is quite spiritual.
and magical. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. Oh, that's such a great takeaway. That it's accessible and that it's um, uh, efficient is the word that I have thought of over the last week of listening to some of these interviews. Is that I I need things to be simple and accessible for me is to just say like in the moment. And you're right, the more we practice, the better we get at this. I do it, of course, with my husband often is where, you know, one of us will say something and the other one is we're both very practiced at this now to say, what if you looked at it a different way? And that's all we have to say to each other so that the other one doesn't get bristly about whatever they're feeling emotional about. But you can just go, oh, yeah, right. I am buying into the story of this moment or this outcome or this um, response that I'm having. And, you know, sometimes the response is the prison that we live in. And so if we can just step back and go, what if this wasn't happening to me and it's happening for me? And what if I don't need to look at it this way? And sometimes it's even just I can't even remember now, but a couple of days ago I caught myself saying something and I'm like, that's not even my like voice. Where is that coming from? Who is that? You know, whose program is that? It's not even mine. And so I went, you know, yeah, I'm just going to flip this right now and cancel is one of my very first uh, one of my very first teachers used that, you know, cancel. And it's like, oh, okay. The universe just, it's like a magic genie will, you know, rip that thought right out of the ethers and, you know, help you flip it to something positive. So I love that. You know, I think a long time ago, I did this around the word hate. So the word hate's not in my vocabulary anymore because I was taught very young um, that's definitely not doing good things energetically inside of your body, right? So that's one of the first things that I learned to flip. I will say I don't like that, or I don't, you know, that's not resonating with me or whatever. But they throw that word around like it's no big deal, and it is a big deal, right? So yeah, flipping
yeah,
is something that it's a practice that I think we all could do better at a daily basis and just use on a daily basis of listening. It's the awareness piece of listening to yourself and what you're saying and what the people around you are saying and feeling and flipping that. And the mirror words. So for those of you who are watching are like, what's a mirror word? I learned from somewhere along the way. I can't give credit to it because I don't even remember whose teaching that was for me, or if it came from source itself, which sometimes things do. But they're just affirmations that we write on a mirror. I get these Crayola crystal window markers that, you know, kids are supposed to use on the window, but they do great on the mirror as well. But anything will work on the mirror. It can be a sticky note even, or a grease pencil even. And dry erase, right? Anything that will work and come back off. and you just write your affirmation, whatever that is. And I give the affirmations of the week. But you can, you get practiced at kind of coming up with your own or reaching out to someone like Louise Hay and doing that as well. So there are affirmations, but the point of having them on your mirror is that you're seeing them every day. We used to do that in the car as well. So, I'm a peaceful driver for anyone that has that gets anxious in the car or lets the road rage kind of seep in, right? I'm a peaceful driver, or I'm a safe driver, or I remember I learned from Abraham Hicks, Esther Hicks channels, this entity Abraham. So if you're watching and you've heard of that, it's one of my faves. He or she, I don't know, Abraham, whatever sex Abraham is, says, for people who get pulled over a lot in the car, right? Why don't you just put out a different a radar antenna that the police are just always going the other way, or they're looking the other way, or you never see them anymore? Because obviously if they're pulling you over, or they, that you see them a lot and you feel anxious about the police, or you're driving fast because you need to get somewhere and you're worried about getting pulled over, you're putting that energy out, like, come find me because I'm doing something wrong. And if you just shift that energy to, yeah, I'm not doing anything wrong, and I'm not afraid of the police, and in fact, the police protect us and they provide a good service to us. So it's all about, I just went down the rabbit hole on that, but it's all about mindset, right? It's all about that focus, because what you focus on expands. So that kind of, I feel like we've answered a little bit that my third question of what things do you feel like manifesting with synchronicity has helped you create or manifest, and, emotionally, spiritually, but materially or physically, do you feel like you're in a better space of manifestation from the course?
I do. I love honoring and recognizing each experience of synchronicity. And I've had a lot of wonderful ongoing synchronicities, just little things in daily life, like locating something, readily. And, one of the main things I gained from the course is more a fuller sense of permission to be out in nature, because I love to be out in nature. It's one of the reasons that I decided to live year round in Maine. And especially to be out at what you call the magic hour, when the light is so beautiful, when the sun is setting, and, that time of day when both the rods and cones in our eyes are active, so the colors look more brilliant. And I love to do that, but now I have more of a sense of permission to devote time to being out on a fairly long walk, to be out at that time of day. So, those are some of the things that am continuing to practice. And just am so grateful for and appreciate so much. And the whole process was just so enjoyable. I loved the times when we would get together, online, and share experiences. Many things about the way you organized the course I really found very a great joy to take part in.
Thank you for mentioning that. So in the old format, the very first format, when I taught this in person back in the Stone Age, we would meet every 2 weeks, and we would meet for like 2 or 3 hours because there's always so much to talk about. So when I decided to push this online, and that's a little synchronous story in itself, is I decided I'd been thinking about teaching manifesting with synchronicity online for a couple of years, which I took off to focus on the nutrition side of my business, and didn't teach this. But I felt like I was maybe ahead of the curve. So I was waiting, like we do. You're incubating on an idea. And I was incubating on putting manifesting with synchronicity online. And I finally decided at the end of 2019 that it was time. And it was a very vivid message from spirit for me. I don't know if I woke up one morning or it was during the magic hour, because I do like to meditate during the magic hour, out in the woods, or even on the back deck, and just let that energy of that shifting between daylight and nighttime, because they have such different energies. And it is magic. It's magic. I mean, I learned that phrase from photography back in the day because it does make your photographs more vivid. And that's when Ansel Adams tends to photograph. And I studied under one of his apprentices, because in my past life, I was a professional photographer before all of this. But back to the discovery of, okay, I'm going to put this online. I put it online. I launched it for April 1st, 2020. And we didn't know at the beginning of February, when I was really pushing this out there into the world, that was going to be a magical experience for us to go through the pandemic. So my first course, it was, both 2020 classes were specific. 10 people went through it. We were all journeying through it together, and we met every week at a specific time, like Edee said. Now it's a rolling start. And I think it's going to be interesting in 2021 to see how that is. I mean, I'm playing with it, right? If it does seem like people need to go through it at the same time, then I will gather people, in clusters, and we'll go through it at the same time. But I have been through 2 courses of my own. I mean, not of mine, of someone else's on my own, journeying through at a different pace, not with anyone, but then having that Facebook community to talk about where I'm at, and to have other people who are at different phases talk about and share, and going back to certain modules, because I've seen someone else going back to that module and going, oh, okay, that one I need to revisit. Right. So I think it's a cool concept. We'll see how it plays out, but we are going to meet every week. I mean, not everybody has to come, but I'm opening it up to our whole Manifesting with Synchronicity community to come and join us. So no matter where you're at in the class, even if you've been through the class, like you guys all did last year, you can come and join us on Zoom starting April 8th is a Thursday. It'll always be Thursday at 4 p.m. Mountain Time, 6 p.m. your time in Maine. And, a half an hour, 40 minutes of questions. And I think it's going to be really fun to have questions at all stages, because your questions were always typically at one insight, but you guys, I was noticing, were reading at different paces. People read at different paces, period. Like, we know this, right, from school. So, the one room classroom, I think, is going to be fun. I think it's going to be interesting to be able to ask questions of all insights. And then if you're on the 8th or 9th insight and someone asks about the 3rd and talks about going out in the magic hour, then you'll get that refresher of, oh yeah, maybe I'll go out in the magic hour tonight, and experience that. So thank you for bringing that up, because I haven't really talked about that yet. And I think that's an important piece. And I know I'll be taking clips from these interviews to use in marketing. And I think that's a really important one to talk about, that the value of us discussing things like this together. I call this a book club on steroids. The value of us discussing it together, I think, is important. And then, the little tidbits that we take away, right? It's how much we get to share that with the other people who are going through this is magical, because then, you, like I said, get a refresher, so to speak. So in that kind of segues me to ask you the final question of, what kind of person, knowing that we have this big community and all types of people have come through, all ages were in your class. So what, with that said, what type of person would you recommend this course to? And what would you tell them about it to help them take the leap and sign up?
Well, part of what I loved in the course was meeting people with different backgrounds. I've always loved that all my life. It's, intriguing to me. But I would say your course is very valuable for anyone who just plain wants to deepen their understanding of existence. I feel that's such an essential part of life. And to feel, to be taught that you're capable of doing that, of comprehending it for yourself. What is your wisdom? Um, and the course is very helpful for tackling a problem. Anyone who has some kind of issue or seeming obstacle, these are great tools for overcoming that, finding out what the significance is,
Mm.
and just for wanting to enjoy life more. So many aspects of synchronicity lead to more joy in life. And I love that, and a greater sense of freedom. Um, and I would say, gosh, the sooner you can learn these things, the better. So you
Yeah,
don't waste any time.
right.
I enjoyed a wonderful synchronicity just last night. It was pouring rain, but the air was so fresh. So I got all suited up in rain gear that's really meant for being out on a boat, but you can use it for a hike, and and walked down the street, a road that I often go for what I call a serviceable walk. It's beautiful. There's a pond, and I love to see the ice diminishing on the pond. But lo and behold, one of my neighbors who takes care of a farm there had created over the last few weeks a big wood pile to burn. And this was a safe time to burn it. So there was this large bonfire going,
Mm.
and to see the fire in the
In the rain.
rainstorm and the
Wow.
wind, oh, it was so beautiful. It was so exhilarating. So
Wow.
I just followed that impulse to, yeah, I feel like a walk,
Right.
So
Wow.
um,
And yeah, that where, like you said, you never know where the synchronicities are going to lead you. Craig and I have this phrase, if you look at it, bring it. And so if it's a sunny day outside and you bring an umbrella, you don't know why, or your raincoat or your headphones, or, something that you look at on your way out of the house, right? Because later on in the day, it's like, for me, the angelic nudges. That's what I feel like synchronicity is. We're
yes.
always accompanied by our guardian angel, and that guardian angel is nudging us. Our angels are nudging us. God is nudging us, the universe, like whoever it is that you believe in, um, or whatever it is that you believe in, it's all the same. All us connecting to that quantum field that we don't understand yet. Maybe we will someday, but we don't need to either,
Mhm.
of understanding like why that happens. But I love that. So often we don't spend time in nature because of the weather. And when I lived in Oregon, I didn't have a choice. And I live in Steamboat. I don't have a choice sometimes, and I prefer to ski when it is blowing hard sideways and it's no one else is up there. It's mystical. I said this 2 days ago, it keeps the riffraff out, like the fog, the density, the blowing snow, the just dumping, like we call it nuking when it's snowing 3 inches an hour, that's when I love to be up there, because nature is such a powerful force. And if we can feel that and step into that, then we're part of that powerful force. And so I love that you went out in the rain, and I'm imagining, the outfit that I had when I lived in Oregon, it's long gone. I don't have that kind of Gore-Tex these days, because I don't need it. I have snow gear, out the wazoo, but I don't have rain gear. I have a jacket and I have a pair of pants, but not, and a hat. Actually, I still have my OR hat from Oregon that keeps the kind of the rain off. But I'm imagining like the yellow boat, like lobster suit with the like hat and the, right. And just going out there and finding the magic. And you're right. Learning this at a young age. I mean, I've thought of what it would be like to make a class for children, and to chunk this down, with simpler explanations for the younger audience, because the more we learn and the more we remember that we are just here to play, the more magic we can create in our life. And as adults, we forget that because we're in the grind of life, supporting the family, and just getting into our ruts, getting into our habitual ruts. So, um, Yeah, I love that. I don't even understand or know how fire can rage in a rainstorm. That doesn't even compute, right? So
Yeah,
yeah, that's
yeah. Well, if it's a deep enough fire,
yeah,
it was doing beautifully. It was glowing. The sparks were beautiful, flying up into the wind. Um, every aspect was really just a delight to see.
mm. The word that comes up for me
And
is primal, right? We have a primal connection to fire.
and the elements, water and fire together. Um, I loved that.
Well, you
Uh,
said wind
and
too, so wind, air, right?
yes, because then, with smoke and flame, you can see the patterns of the wind,
Yeah,
with that beautiful poem of, who has seen the wind? When the trees bow down their heads, the wind is passing by,
yeah,
so you don't always get to see the wind, but when there's a big plume of smoke, you do get to see those patterns.
yeah.
So, yeah,
Awesome. Well,
yeah.
thank you for your time today, Edie. We'll wrap it up, and I appreciate that all that you've shared with us today. And if you're watching this, know that there's no coincidence, that there's a synchronicity and a message for you to dig deeper into this and to journey through the course. The Celestine Prophecy book and the Manifesting with Synchronicity course with us. April 1st is my close for the pre-sale, which is a rock bottom price of $489, just to get people through our funnel and to help people say yes to this. After April 1st, it goes up to $669, and you can pay that in full or pay in installments. So if you're watching this later, down the road in 2021, still $669 is a really great price for all that you get out of this course. And the bonuses are that you do get a session with me, and you get the advanced course at no additional cost, which is a value of close to $200. That's 3 books and 3 insights, and people journey through that, pretty slowly, but it's really 3 up level amazing insights talking about developing your connection to source even deeper and creating a better world for us all to live in, which I think after the pandemic, we're all very focused on. So thanks for watching. Thanks for joining me, Edie. You're just a blessed light in my life. I've always, as we've discussed in the last year, I've always felt super connected to you, and now I feel even more so. So thank
I
you.
love it too. Thank you
I'm gonna
so
have to
much
come
for
visit
all
you.
you offer.
Thank you,
Okay.
honey. Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm gonna have to come visit you at some point in Maine. I know I will. So love you.